Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program 2012 Technical Assistance Orientation Webinar. The JMHCP program is a really important initiative to help reduce the prevalence of individuals with mental illness that are in our criminal justice system and further collaborations between organizations in both the criminal justice and mental health systems. After a brief presentation by our speakers today, Danica Binkley and Nikisha Love-Weaver from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, and Jerry Murphy and myself, Cynthia Chimamanda from the Council of State Governments Justice Center, there will be time for a question and answer session. To ask a question, please type the question into the Q&A panel on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We will do our best to answer your questions. If your question does not get answered during the webinar, please follow up via email after the event has ended. At the end of the presentation, we will provide email addresses for everybody that's speaking today. If you encounter any technical or audio problems during this webinar, please call WebEx Technical Support at 1-866-229-3239. Please understand that there are some technical issues you may not be able to be resolved. For this reason, we are recording this event, and we will be emailing the recording to all of the attendees, as well as posting it on our website later this week. Starting off the webinar today will be a welcome by Bureau of Justice Assistance staff, information about the current round of grantees, as well as discussion on the budget process. Following this will be a short presentation by the Council of State Government staff on technical assistance and what we do, and then we will conclude with time for questions and answers of both BJA and CSG Justice Center staff. I'll now turn things over to Danica from the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, thank you, Cynthia, and good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the JMHCP orientation webinar. Again, my name is Danica Binkley. I am the policy advisor for the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. And I want to start by saying congratulations to all the fiscal year 2012 Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program grantees who have joined this webinar today. We're really excited about the projects that we've funded this year through this program and to be able to partner with you in order to plan for, implement, or enhance your criminal justice and mental health collaborations. As you all know, the purpose of the JMHCP is to increase public safety through innovative cross-system collaboration for individuals with mental illness or co-occurring mental health and substance abuse disorders. This grant program, administered by BJA, is authorized by the Mentally Ill Offender Treatment and Crime Reduction Act and the Mentally Ill Offender Treatment and Crime Reduction Reauthorization and Improvement Act. The program involves grants to state, local, and tribal jurisdictions, as well as to a national training and technical assistance provider, the Council of State Governments Justice Center, who you'll hear more from as soon as we're done with our presentation here at BJA. I just want to start by giving you a sense of the cohort of the fiscal year 2012 grantees. As you are aware, this program is very competitive. From the 279 applicants who applied in fiscal year 2011, only 40 of those applicants were selected in 2011, or 14%. And that's why we decided that for 2012, we would select grantees from the highly qualified but unfunded applicants from that pool in 2011. For this year, we made 34 awards, 7 of which are planning grants, 19 are planning and implementation grants, and 8 grants are expansion grants. As you know, this program allows for a good deal of flexibility regarding what type of collaborative project can be funded. You all represent a really interesting mix of types of programs broken down in the following ways. So there are 10 juvenile-focused programs, 20 adult-focused programs, and 4 that serve both juveniles and adults. 16 are court or pretrial-based service programs. There are 2 specific to law enforcement, and 16 programs that address co-occurring disorders, which includes corrections, community corrections, and reentry-based programs. In addition, there are programs implementing specific trauma-based intervention that incorporate evidence-based practices and screening tools to better screen and assess clients that focus on women, girls, and veterans. More specifically, 3 of those programs focus on women, 2 on girls, and 3 programs focus specifically on veterans. So there's really a wide range of projects and programs with a wide variety of targets and different focal points at different points in the criminal justice system. So again, I want to congratulate all of you for being selected for and receiving the grant this year. We're really excited to be able to work with you and to track your progress. Please know that you have a lot of resources available to you as a BJA grantee. You'll be hearing more about them both from BJA and from the Justice Center. And you'll also be given access to our contact information as well as our website. So you should have all of the information you need to contact us. I just want to start also by giving you a brief overview of how BJA is structured so you understand who we all are. BJA has three primary components: the Policy Office, the Programs Office, and the Planning Office. The Policy Office provides national leadership in criminal justice policy, training, and technical assistance to further the administration of justice. It also acts as a liaison to national organizations that partner with BJA to set policy and help disseminate information on best and promising practices. I am situated in the Policy Office. The Programs Office coordinates and administers all state and local grant programs and acts as BJA's direct line of communication to states, territories, and tribal governments by providing assistance and coordinating resources. Nikisha and Mark, who are the two grant managers of this program, are situated in the Programs Office. The Planning Office coordinates the planning, communications, and budget formulation and execution and provides overall BJA-wide coordination and supports streamlining efforts. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nikisha, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the grant management aspects.
Hello, good afternoon. Again, my name is Nikisha Love Weaver. I am the lead grant program manager for the Justice and Mental Health Program. Along with myself, you also have Mark Klein, who also oversees the Justice and Mental Health Program also. I would like to take this time to say congratulations once again to all of you for your receipt of your Justice and Mental Health Award for this FY 2012 year. I'm going to briefly discuss some of the grant management basics with you. By now, most of you should have received your grant award documents. If you don't have a copy of your grant award documents, I ask that you get with your authorizing official to retain a copy of the grant documents so that you can familiarize yourself with the special conditions. Please read over the special conditions of the awards because I know some of you may have questions in reference to withholdings if you can't access your funding. Budget clearances, we know that some of you still are on conditional clearance. Myself and Mark will be emailing you to let you know what needs to be done to resolve these issues. Reporter requirements are due 30 days after the end of each reporting period. We will grant for a 15-day extension, which gives you 45 days. After the 45th day, your grant funds will be frozen due to delinquent reports. Once you submit your reports into GMS and the reports have been approved, your funds will then be released. Note that even though your budget may not have been cleared or you may not have any activity, you still are responsible for submitting reports. Point of contact information. It is very important that all of the information in reference to everyone who's involved in your grant has updated the information in GMS. We ask that if you are the authorizing official, that you have elected someone else to be your point of contact and that you have a different financial point of contact. So that way we have more than one person that we're sending information to because GMS is the house information that we have to contact you all when we have issues with your grant awards or if we just need to contact you on basic information in reference to your grant. If the information is not updated, then you will not receive any information when it comes to your award. So we ask that you go into GMS and make sure that all of the information is correct. Everyone who will be working with the award, email addresses, everyone needs to have their own email address, even the authorizing official, because the authorizing official is the person responsible for the grant award. Drawdown of funds, if you're trying to draw down your funds and you're not able to draw down your funds at this time, it could be because there are special condition withholdings. And if you have not accepted the award, therefore you have not set up the information that needs to be submitted in GMS for your financial point of contact. So please make sure that you have already selected your financial point of contact, so that way when it comes down to you needing to draw down your funds, all of that information has already been taken care of. Thank you, and any questions we will answer after the end of this webinar.
I think that does it for BJA. We'll turn it back over to CSG.
Great. Jerry?
Jerry, I think you have your phone muted. By any chance, maybe?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me start over. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes and give some background about the Council of State Governments and the Justice Center. The Justice Center is a part of the Council of State Governments, otherwise known as CSG. CSG is a national nonprofit and nonpartisan membership organization that serves all three branches of government, that is legislative, judicial, and executive, across the country. We provide policy resources to publicly elected and appointed officials, and in general, investigate and research a broad range of issues, from transportation and education to the environment, healthcare, and criminal justice. In the criminal justice area, we have established the Justice Center. And that's who the employees that you're talking to today are from the Justice Center. And the Justice Center is the division of CSG that focuses on issues of criminal justice and public safety. We started in 2002 in conjunction with the release of the landmark Consensus Project report. And that report, written by CSG staff and leading criminal justice and mental health organizations across the country, provided specific recommendations to state, local, and federal policymakers, as well as criminal justice and mental health professionals, to help them improve the criminal justice system's response to people with mental illness. Within the Justice Center, we have three major national projects. One is the Consensus Project, which we'll be talking more about today, and that's focused on the criminal justice and mental health in an effort to improve responses to persons with mental illness who are in contact with the criminal justice system. We provide technical assistance to grantees as well as policy guidance to the field. We also administer the Reentry Policy Council and the National Reentry Resource Center. And this project is focused on the safe return of people to communities after being released from correctional settings. And we work to develop bipartisan principles and policies, and also to facilitate coordination and information sharing among organizations implementing these initiatives. And again, we provide technical assistance to grantees and policy guidance to the entire field. The third major project is Justice Reinvestment, and this is focused on increasing public safety, reducing spending on corrections, and improving conditions in high-stakes neighborhoods with disproportionate funding. We work intensively with several states around the country to develop and implement justice reinvestment strategies. To learn more about the Justice Center, and in particular the Consensus Project, you can go to our website, www.consensusproject.org, where you'll find significant information about additional resources available to you, as well as background on a number of our staff. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Cynthia, who's a policy analyst here at Justice Center.
Great. Thank you so much, Jerry. Hi, everybody. My name is Cynthia Chimamanda, and I'm representing a team of technical assistance coordinators who work under both Jerry Murphy and our director, David Demora, in the Justice Center's Criminal Justice Mental Health Collaboration Project. And like everybody else, I'd like to say congratulations for receiving this highly competitive grant program. We're here to provide assistance to all of you over the course of your grant under the JMHCP program. Technical assistance means different things to different people. So the main goal of today is for you to leave this webinar with a sense of the types of things that the Justice Center staff can help you with. The resources we have and over the course of the next year help you achieve the goals that you set out in your grant applications and that BJA funded you to do. On your screen now are a few of the examples of the things your technical assistance coordinator can do or reasons to contact us. We can help you support your team's efforts through on- and off-site technical assistance. Off-site technical assistance is a set of regular phone calls, check-ins, and emails we would have with you and your key stakeholders or partners, for example. For on-site technical assistance, we have a limited number of site visits to grantees we can make that have a situation that would really benefit from an in-person consultation by Justice Center staff and a content expert. Another thing that we do is connecting you with resources and experts. So research expert practitioners and those that have done this work before. We also connect you to individuals and programs that are in your shoes right now. We're implementing programs similar to yours. We have a couple of opportunities to help connect you with your peers, both live through meetings and online at our website. If you navigate to our website, www.consensusproject.org, and follow the link to resources at the top of the page in the blue bar, you'll find a link for our local programs database. This is where we have self-managed profiles of criminal justice and mental health programs and collaborations from around the country. These are program descriptions posted by past JMHCP grantees, and you will work with your TA coordinator to post your own program profile to the site. If you're interested in finding a court program in Alabama, for example, or a law enforcement program in Maine, or a juvenile program in the Pacific Northwest, you can search and find a description and the contact information of relevant programs. In addition to the local programs database, we have a monthly newsletter, which is a compendium of information on important topics on criminal justice and mental health collaborations in the field. It includes upcoming funding opportunities, webinar announcements, profiles of current and past JMHCP programs and their milestones, important research, as well as links to a number of articles on criminal justice and mental health that appear in national newspapers and magazines around the country. You can sign up for the newsletter from any page on the Consensus Project website in the upper right-hand corner. Your technical assistance coordinator and the Justice Center will hopefully help you from reinventing the wheel and making sure if someone out there is doing something similar, you know about it and can benefit from their experience. If there is research that is relevant to your program, you are connected to it. And if there's an expert that can help you troubleshoot a problem that you're facing and help you achieve your goals, we want you to have access to them. We're also here to make sure that you're not alone in the process of achieving your grant goals. Your programs are spread across the country, and sometimes even your team members are located in different geographic areas. We're here to make sure that you know that there are others that are doing similar things as you, and make sure that you are in touch with them. With these things in mind, I'm now going to talk a little bit about what your technical assistance includes. First, there are some things that everyone gets. Everyone will be invited to a JMHCP grantee orientation this coming February in the Washington, D.C. area. Currently, it is scheduled for late February, but the exact dates are not just yet known, so we're hoping to get that information out to everyone shortly. The process is still being negotiated and approved, and as soon as we have everything secured and the exact dates known, we will reach out to everybody. This is an excellent and important event. Experts from the field will be presenting. There will be work sessions conducted by Justice Center staff as well as national speakers. You will have the opportunity to meet with your technical assistance coordinator in person and network with your peers from around the country. Your TA coordinator will also be helping you work on a planning and implementation guide, or the P&I guide, which you should have received in our first email from David Demora and will be receiving once again by email in the coming week. This is a structured process to help you think through some frequently asked questions and frequently encountered situations and challenges in implementing justice and mental health collaboration programs. Your TA coordinator will be setting up a future phone call with you and your team members to specifically go over this process. It is not necessary for you to start completing the guide right now, but wait until you receive specific direction from your TA coordinator. The P&I guide is required for Category 2 Planning and Implementation Grantees, but we ask all grantees to complete it. Okay, hold on. Next, and thirdly, in addition to the newsletter and the peer-to-peer database that I just mentioned, the Consensus Project website has a vast library of written research documents, practitioner guides, as well as distance learning opportunities. All of these documents are free and downloadable from our website. We have a suite of publications on mental health courts, law enforcement and probation initiatives, a recently released report on prioritizing scarce resources for adults being supervised in community correction settings, as well as our very popular Breaking School Rules publication on the school-to-prison pipeline. This was an unprecedented statewide study of nearly 1 million Texas public secondary school students who were followed for at least 6 years. We also do a series of webinars over the course of the year, one approximately every month on topics that have been requested by JMHCP grantees. There is also an archive of previously conducted webinars on a variety of topics that can be found on our website under the Technical Assistance heading that can be viewed at any time. Recent webinars include screening and assessment, data collection, measuring program performance, developing clinical intervention, trauma services, and gender issues in the criminal justice and mental health systems. So these are all things that all grantees get. You will also have a customized technical assistance plan. You have already been assigned a technical assistance coordinator from the Justice Center who will be familiar with your team and the grant goals you have outlined. You will work with this coordinator over the course of the year to identify relevant resources, troubleshoot questions that are coming up as you're working with your grant, and make connections with other programs around the country. You and your TA coordinator will work on a TA plan. When it makes sense for you to be checking in, how they can be helpful, and you will also work with your coordinator to identify whether or not your program is appropriate for one of our site visits. In addition to the Planning and Implementation Guide, we will be sending you a TA worksheet. You should receive that also by the end of this week. It is a short 2-page description of what technical assistance includes, and also has a section where you can request specific types of technical assistance. So if you already know that there's something you would like more information on or contact with an expert about, it's an excellent way to address that and give your TA coordinator a heads up about it. And lastly, for your reference, this is an example of what the main Consensus Project website looks like with the address at the top of your screen. I urge you to take a look at it, sign up for the newsletter, start thinking about your local program's database profile, and explore the vast number of resources it contains for you to get more information. I hope that this has been helpful in giving you examples of what TA looks like from the Justice Center and some specific examples of what types of things that we do. At the end of the presentation, we will display all of our contact information. Please feel free to email the appropriate person for additional information, either the BJA staff for more fiscal and grant-related management issues, or either myself, Jerry Murphy, or David Zamora as it pertains to technical assistance issues. As a reminder, we will be emailing out these slides later this week, as well as posting a link to the recording on our webinar page in archive form. This now ends our piece of the presentation. I'm going to turn it back over to Mariana, our moderator, to start our Q&A.
Great. So hi, everyone. So if you have any questions for any of the panelists, there is a Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and if you send that through, I'll start asking some questions. I have received 2 questions. The first is that we heard that there was a mental health court curriculum that might be launched soon. Cynthia, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. As some of you are aware, and if you Google anything having to do with mental health courts, you'll get a ton of resources on the Justice Center. In addition to the suite of publications that we have about the mental health court curriculum, starting in January, we will be launching an online mental health court curriculum. This is a online free resource for everybody that contains videos, worksheets, slide presentations, and different resources that a team that is interested in preparing a mental health court or implementing a mental health court can view in order to help with the planning and implementation process. It was done in a partnership with both the Justice Center and an outside organization, so it's a pretty impressive product, and it has a series of different modules, so you can go through it a different module at a time depending on the needs of your team. Your technical assistance coordinator can provide you information about that, and there will be information about it that goes out into our newsletter at the beginning of the year.
Thanks, Cynthia. I have a question for Nikisha. We have a grantee that asks, due to an unusual set of circumstances, we had to submit a modification already and have been notified our application is on hold. What does that mean? What does a hold mean?
Okay, when you say modification, they submitted again?
Mm-hmm.
And the application is on hold?
Yeah.
Okay, I would need for the grantee to contact me because I need to know exactly what the application number and exactly what's going on.
Okay.
So if you can have the grantee to email me,
yeah,
and provide the application number, and I can give them, a little bit more information.
Great. So Nikisha's information is up here on the screen with her email and work number. If you can email her that information, that would be great. I have another grantee that asks, when will you reach out to us for budget clearance? We have had budgets pending for almost a month now. They want a sense of the timeline.
Okay. Me and Mark, we're working on that right now due to OCFO reviewing the budgets that were submitted. They're still reviewing them, and once they do their findings, if there are any issues, they will contact us, and once we receive that information, we will be sending them out to the grantee, letting them know these are the revisions that need to be made. So we're hoping that that will be by this week or end of next week.
Okay. Great. This is a question for CSG, or maybe Cynthia can answer this. Is the grantee orientation event directed to program delivery staff or staff overseeing the grant?
Okay, great question. Depending on which grant category you're in, planning and implementation, or expansion, the solicitation required you to budget or put into your budget either 2 or 4 people to attend the orientation event. So if you were a planning grantee, the requirement was 2, and if you're a planning and implementation or expansion grantee, the requirement is 4. I know that sometimes there is some discrepancy with that. You may have budgeted for more if you were planning or less if you were planning and implementation or expansion. That being said, obviously, the best thing to do would be to talk to your technical assistance coordinator about who the best person is in your staff to attend. Usually, people send the major person who's doing the program coordination, so the project coordinator, usually somebody on the criminal justice side, somebody on the mental health side, and then anybody else who is working really closely that is delivering or planning and implementing the actual project as a whole. So it could be staff that's overseeing the grant, but usually because it's very, very content heavy in terms of learning about different research that's going on in the field, as well as different trends in the field, a lot of the programming is really marketed to the people that are delivering the services. However, there is also going to be a series of sessions that are being conducted by Danica and Nikisha on the BJA side in terms of grant management. So there also needs to be, of the 2 or 4 people that you bring, somebody that is able to and will understand the grant management piece, or can relay that back to the person that is managing the grant management piece. If that doesn't fully answer your question, but in general, I would encourage you to reach out to your TA coordinator, and once you guys have your first TA call, to discuss who are the most appropriate people in the program to be attending.
Okay, great. So you're mentioning the TA coordinator. A lot of the grantees are asking, how do they find out who their TA coordinator is for their grant?
Okay, great. So everybody should have received at this point an email from David Demora welcoming you to the grant program. It's quite possible that when your grant was originally written and submitted to BJA, which at this point we know is almost 2 years ago, that the point of contact and the authorized person that's listed in GMS is not correct. And that is very common that we find when we first send out our emails to everybody. If you are on this webinar and you have not received that welcome email from BJA and also from David Demora, I encourage you to please reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen right now, and let me know what jurisdiction that you are working in, so the state and the county that you are working in, or the description of your project, so that I can match you up with the correct TA coordinator. At this point, in the email that you received from David, it should have outlined or said the name of the person that was your TA coordinator along with their email address. So if you have not received that yet, please do go ahead and email me directly, and we will hook you up with the correct person.
Okay, great. I have another question about data collection. It's when will we learn more about specific data collection requirements?
Okay, I am guessing that the person is referencing performance measures. And I might need some help from Nikisha and Danica on this question because I'm not entirely sure if there are specific instructions that go out to the teams about when to start completing their reports, or if that happens to JMS and the process on the BJA side. So if Danica or Nikisha, can you jump in with that question?
I will say we will have a presentation at the event in February with CSR, who will go into detail about performance measures and sort of what's expected. But yes, they'll be receiving more specific instructions as well.
Okay,
from CSR directly.
Okay, great. It's very likely that the person that is your TA coordinator will be able to help you out with some of those questions as well. The performance measures are new as of last year, so this is the second round of going through these new performance measures. So we're all kind of learning together. But your TA coordinator might also be able to answer more specific questions if that's at all helpful.
Okay. And so speaking a little bit more about the orientation, is there going to be an agenda available in advance of the grantee orientation so people can plan accordingly?
Absolutely. We're actually still working on that programming, but unfortunately we have to wait till everything gets approved. We should have something out to everybody shortly. We're still in the process of figuring out who all of the speakers are and all of the actual sessions. But as soon as that's available, it will go out to everybody in advance. Again, I just want to defer back that if you're having trouble figuring out who to attend based on what the session programming is going to be looking like, please do reach out to your TA coordinator and they can help you figure that out.
Okay. I have a question that says, we are a planning grant recipient. How many months on average does it take for a community to complete the P&I guide? And what is the process for future funding?
Okay, I'm going to take that in two parts. For a planning grantee, as far as how long it takes to complete the P&I guide, I want to point out that it is not actually a requirement for your category. However, we do encourage you to complete a lot of the beginning sections of the P&I guide. Depending on what you are planning to do in your planning grant, be it end with a strategic plan, for example, or if you're actually going to be implementing a specific actual program component, will dictate which pieces of the P&I guide as a planning grantee you will actually be completing. For those planning grantees that are ending their program or ending their year with a deliverable like a strategic plan without necessarily identifying one specific program that you want to implement in the future, there are sections of the P&I guide that will not be applicable to you because they're really about implementation. So I'm going to defer you back to your TA coordinator. That seems like I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. But it's going to make more sense for you to work with them to figure out which sections are the most important for you to actually spend time on. And depending on what you have talked about with your core team, if your team has been assembled so far, and the pieces of what you're trying to put together will really dictate how long the P&I guide takes for you to go through. Again, I want to defer back to the TA coordinator and let you know that we're going to have a specific phone call with everybody just around the P&I guide with more instructions on how to answer that. Mariana, there was a second part to that question about funding.
Yeah, so what are the, for a planning grant, what is it like for future funding? What are their options for future funding?
Okay. I'm going to guess that question is about whether or not as a planning grant they can apply for the next category of funding under JMHCP. So that would also be the same question for P&I grants who are interested in expansion grants. That is a very popular question that we get from grantees all the time. And we have actually, CSJ has gone back and taken a look at all of the different cohorts of grantees to see who from previous years has gotten funding the next year. And this grant is managed a little bit differently than some other grants that people might be familiar with. There are other grant programs where you have one category of funding, and then there's a second category of funding that's kind of continuation funding where you seamlessly get that next category of funding, or you have special priority for that next category of funding. This, to everyone's disappointment, is not that grant program. If you are a planning grantee and you're interested in a P&I grant in a subsequent year, essentially you need to rewrite your 15-page narrative and look at when the funding solicitation comes out and start over from scratch. There is a group of reviewers, and that is not anybody from the Justice Center. So we are not part of that decision-making process at all. We have nothing to do with it. There's a group of reviewers who review your application and start from scratch. And in terms of additional funding opportunities outside of JMHCP, that is a topic that we go over with you as your TA coordinator. So we have a lot of different resources depending on the program that you are operating, be it an adult program or a juvenile program, to address things like funding and sustainability. So unfortunately, you are more than welcome to apply in subsequent years, but there is no guarantee that just because you are a grantee this year means that you would get the next category of funding in subsequent years. As an illustration, and just to kind of give you some perspective, in 2010, there were 62 grantees, and as you're aware, in 2011, the grantees that were picked were the same applications that were picked in 2012. So those people that applied in 2011 were awarded grants in 2011 and 2012. Out of the 62 grantees from 2010 that applied for the next category of funding, and that wasn't necessarily all 62 of them, there were only 3, I believe, programs, 2 that were planning, or maybe 3 that were planning that received the next category of funding for planning and implementation. So it's probably helpful for people to understand in context. As I'm going to defer back to what Danica said at the beginning, this is a highly, highly competitive program, and only about 14% of grants were actually accepted. It's a long answer to that question.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. We have one more question about the GMS system. If someone's having trouble navigating the GMS system, who should they reach out to?
I'm going to ask Nikisha and or Danica.
Yeah, I think Nikisha or Danica is there.
Hello. They would need to reach out to the GMS help desk. So that number to the GMS help desk, I'm not sure if they received that information. So I'll get the number for you so that they can contact the GMS help desk. It would be 1-888-549-9901, and that would be option 3. And their reason for it, if their reason for not being able to access GMS is it because they have not set up a username or password?
Well, it says that they are looking for information in the GMS system and don't know where to find it.
Okay.
Within the system, so I believe the help desk can help them out.
Yes.
I think that's it for in terms of questions. If
Oh, actually, Mariana, I just got one directly to me. It looks like asking about if their evaluators should attend the orientation meeting in DC. I'm going to kind of defer back to my earlier answer that you can work with your TA coordinator to decide who is the most appropriate person to attend out of the group that you are attending. But yes, I think that an evaluator would be a great part of the team to attend. There's going to be a lot of information on things like data collection, funding, and sustainability, as well as how to tell the story of your program, and that's always a great conversation to have your evaluator be a part of. So I would always encourage an evaluator to attend, but with the caveat that you do need to look at who your core team is that is going to basically be responsible for doing the planning and implementation of the grant, and therefore to work together to determine who the best person is.
Great.
Great. It sounds like we're almost done with questions. So
I think we're done with. I think we're done with questions coming in. At least, if you have any more comments, if you feel.
Nope, that's it.
Great. So I guess this concludes the JMHCP 2012 Technical Assistance Orientation webinar. Again, if you have any questions, the contact information for all panelists is up on your screen. Below also are the links to both the BJA websites and the Consensus Project websites. Earlier in the webinar, I sent out a link to the presentation itself, but you should feel more than free to email me directly should you need any information from this webinar as well. I would like to remind everyone that the webinar is recorded and will be distributed to grantees in the coming week. So if you missed something or you just want to re-listen to it or want someone on your team to listen to it, you will be able to play this again. In addition, as you leave the webinar, there is going to be a short survey that appears on your screen, and we would be very grateful if you could complete that as part of our reporting, and we really want to improve our programming for attendees. So I would like to thank all of the participants, attendees, and panelists for their participation, and encourage you to reach out to anyone should you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay.